morning. I want to thank all of you for being here. We just completed a meeting of the Unified Command Group with an update from the National Weather Service and various state officials. We obviously continue to take this storm very seriously, and we urge everyone in Louisiana to do the same. I would remind everyone that last year we had two severe weather events around rain with flooding, and between the two events, 56 of our 64 parishes were declared major federal disasters. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen this year with this storm, but this is a named storm that we've been tracking through the Gulf, and we certainly cannot afford to take it lightly. This will be a severe weather event that will primarily consist of threats of rain and flooding, but there also is a potential for wind damage as well. FEMA is with us here on the ground, and we'll be providing updates as part of this briefing, and Bill Duran will do that shortly. I do want to let everybody know that earlier this morning I did sign a statewide declaration of emergency. As of right now, 20 parishes have done likewise. 6 more are working on parish declarations as we speak. This is a system that will affect all of Louisiana. No one should be under the belief that this is only going to affect coastal Louisiana or southeast Louisiana. This storm is going to affect the entire state. And just because you don't see your area in the cone of the storm as it approaches, don't take this lightly. Much of the severe weather will occur to the east and to the northeast of the cone. It's important that people all over the state listen and pay attention to what folks at the National Weather Service and what we at the state of Louisiana are saying about this particular storm. And again, be prepared for heavy rain and high water. But also, the winds are between 45 and 60 miles per hour. Anytime you have saturated ground and high wind, you have the potential for trees to be down and for power outages as well, all of which can make for hazardous or at least very uncomfortable conditions that could last for quite some time. It's also noteworthy that tomorrow morning in the southwest Louisiana, about the same time as the storm is going to make landfall officially, we're expecting a high tide. And so down in southwest Louisiana, pre-dawn, while it's still dark, you can expect that land will be inundated with water 2 to 4 feet above normal for the high tide. That's going to happen a little later in the morning over along Grand Isle, sometime after 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So we cannot stress enough the importance of avoiding high water, and that's for everyone across the state. And I will remind people that last year in those two storms, most of the injuries and certainly the deaths occurred when individuals tried to drive across flooded roadways. They couldn't gauge how deep the water was, how fast the current was, and in many cases the water was not marked with signage saying there was high waters. The roads were not blocked, and that's because motorists will get to those areas before local emergency officials or law enforcement or State Department of Transportation. So it's not worth it. Just don't take a chance and try to drive across high water. It's been much better to be cautious in that. In a moment, I will be followed by Secretary Sean Wilson of the Department of Transportation Development, who will give an update on road conditions. He will then be followed by Major General Glenn Curtis, who will let you know about the National Guard resources that are in place and have been staged around the state so that they will be available when needed. We do want you to know that state and local officials are continually monitoring this situation and have been doing so for about 72 hours now. And we urge you to do so as well. I also urge you to visit emergency.la.gov for the latest updates. That's emergency. Stay up to date on social media. Also, because this is hurricane season, I urge everyone to get a game plan app. If you just go to Get a Game Plan and download that app, I think it will help you and your family to be prepared for this hurricane season. So So at this point in time, I'm going to be followed by Sean, then Glenn Curtis, then Bill from Doran from FEMA, and then we'll come back up with questions and answers after that.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. I was just happy to tell you that the Department of Transportation is on 24-hour watch across the entire southern portion of our state. We have seen a number of road closures already, primarily from tidal impacts. So US 90 in both directions to the Venetian Isle on US 11 has been closed. 1077 has been closed, LA 55 and LA 56. It's important for all of the listeners to be aware that when you may see a bridge closure, it may be close to marine traffic or vehicular traffic. And so it's important for you to pay attention to signs and information that's out in public information. The other issue I'd like to share with you is that we have a number of high water signs that we are deploying to different areas where we're going to expect that. So as the governor said, when you get up in the morning, if you're in southwest Louisiana, you may have some water over the roads and you may see some signs. It's important that you give the state the opportunity to go in and inspect that road for washouts, other implications to the system that might cause damage. 2 to 3 inches can cause you to have to move your car in an unexpected direction. So it's important to not ever drive through standing water. And just because you're familiar with the territory doesn't necessarily mean that everyone will see that, and folks may be inclined to follow you. So we would urge you to consider those impacts. At the end of the day, it's important that you're safe. We would encourage you to go to 511la.org. You will get information about all the types of road closures, and you'll see other weather-related information. And we say it's weather-related information because it's an ever-evolving process. Things are going to change pretty quickly depending on the wind and depending on the speed of the tide and, of course, the amount of rain that's going to fall. And so at the end of the day, we want you to be safe and visit the website, getagameplan.org, 511la.org.
Thank you.
Good morning. Yesterday, at the direction of the governor, we alerted the Louisiana National Guard. Starting yesterday through this morning, we have pre-staged 100 high water vehicles, 33 boats across South and Central Louisiana. I will tell you, we have additional assets available. We probably have at least 200 more high water vehicles and about 50 more boats that we could put into missions if and when they are needed. We currently have 4 helicopters on standby to do search and rescue or any key missions that are identified. As far as commodities, we're working with FEMA to make sure that we have commodities moved into the state and that we have prime movers available to move those commodities forward wherever they are needed. I would tell you that we have talked to all of the parishes that are potentially affected and making sure that we understand what the local leadership may need us to do if and when the time comes. We're set to perform any missions that the governor directs us or anything that our citizens need.
Thanks, Governor. As we get a tropical storm, Cindy, it's going to produce heavy rainfall, life-threatening flooding across the Gulf Coast. Please take the necessary precautions, as the governor said, get a game plan, as well as FEMA's ready.gov to be prepared. Monitor your local weather channels and news outlets for current conditions and updates. In anticipation of flood in Louisiana, FEMA Region 6 has activated its Regional Readiness Center in Denton, Texas. In addition, we've got over 500 FEMA employees still here performing recovery from the floods of last August. So we have a pretty robust posture here in the state to assist responders if the situation warrants. Federal personnel committed to assisting GOSEP and our other stakeholders in identifying and addressing needs until the threat is passed and the well-being of all residents has been secured. And we really appreciate the posture of the state, the preparedness and readiness posture of the state. It makes our job a lot easier. That, Governor, thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, prudence requires us to prepare for the worst while we hope and pray for the best. Well, one of the things that I forgot to mention a while ago is there's an elevated risk of tornadoes as well. In fact, we're under a tornado watch currently, and there have been some specific warnings of tornadoes earlier today, especially around the New Orleans area. We have not had any tornadoes, but that obviously is a threat as we move forward. And with that, I would be happy to take questions. Yes, ma'am.
Governor, have you spoken to anybody in the White House setting up a federal declaration if needed?
I have not. We've been working with FEMA here. It's I believe premature for that step. Yes, ma'am.
Have you heard of any flooding that has affected homes or damaged businesses yet at this point?
Have not. The only flooding that we're aware of is tidally induced water that has overtopped certain roadways. And in fact, some of that actually, we had some closures, for example, on LA1 last night in Terrebonne Parish, those roads been opened again because the tide receded. But we don't have any reports of damage to businesses or homes at this point. Yes, sir.
What time can we expect the worst weather in the Baton Rouge area?
Well, you know, I would defer to the Weather Service on that, but we do know that the storm itself will make landfall about 1 o'clock tomorrow morning in southwest Louisiana, about the line between Louisiana and Texas. But when we will get the worst weather here, it could be in advance of that, could be shortly thereafter, and there will be an awful lot of bad weather out to the east and to the north of the cone. But there will also be a lot of heavy rainfall in southwest Louisiana, and in fact, it's areas west of the Atchafalaya River, I think, that are now we are expecting the worst in terms of the total amount of rainfall that we can expect. Yes.
Governor, coming less than a year after last August's flood, there's a lot of people in Louisiana that are traumatized every time rain falls. What's being done by DHH and DCFS to gear up for the need for counseling with something like this happening, a response when they freak out?
Well, with respect to DCFS, I can tell you that the work right now is focusing on foster children in the state's custody to make sure that we have good communications with those foster parents, and if they do have to evacuate, we are able to make sure that they are okay and we know their whereabouts, and we can continue to communicate with them. With respect to counseling, you know, we do have our human service authorities that are out there that are working on that. As you probably know, the social services block grant that we requested from the federal government after last August has not been given to us, at least not yet. So we don't have additional resources for that, but at this point in time, as we anticipate this storm and we prepare for it, you know, we will be mindful of the need for counseling, but that, as of right now, is not our number one priority. It is preparations for this storm.
Can you be more specific about where the high water vehicles are being moved? And also, are you advising at this time anyone who's in a nursing home or a medically fragile person to move?
No, we're not encouraging anyone to evacuate at this time. First of all, when you have a danger of flash flooding and you don't know where it's going to occur, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is ask people to evacuate, because you put them on roadways that are going to be underwater, and so we're not encouraging any evacuations at this point in time. The Department of Health is in constant contact with assisted living centers, nursing homes, and other medical providers to make sure that they're aware of whatever threat there's going to be. And when they do evacuate, of course, they require assistance, but we're not there yet, other than being prepared. And I'm going to ask General Curtis to come up and talk about the positioning of the high water vehicles. He's not going to give you precise information because there's one or two in multiple different parishes across the state, but I'll let him answer that better.
So if you look at basically I-10, I-12 south, we've taken vehicles and staged them from Lake Charles all the way across Louisiana. In some cases there may be, like in Lake Charles area, we've got 6 or 8 vehicles and about 4 boats. But further in South Louisiana, we may have 4 vehicles, 2 boats, but they're all close enough where they can help each other. As you get into Baton Rouge, they've got 10 or 12 staged here with about 6 boats. In the greater New Orleans area, we probably have 12 or 14 high water vehicles with 6 to 8 boats. And then on the North Shore, we got kind of the same spread. But I will tell you, back in Alexandria, where our main base is, we have several hundred more vehicles and boats that we can put into this thing if we need them. We just wanted some forward So when the immediate request comes, we can move quickly to save people's lives and get them out of harm's way.
And General Kurtz and I can both remember last year when we actually had high water vehicles operating in all four corners of the state simultaneously. So we're not going to move them all to one part of the state, knowing that we could need them elsewhere. Yes, sir.
Following up on there being a long year of lots of these sorts of emergencies, what lessons have been learned in those, and how have they been applied in this scenario?
Well, for example, the staging of these assets. We know that we can expect impact from this storm across almost the entirety of the state. We don't know the degree to which there will be flooding in various areas, and so it would not be smart to pre-position all of your assets in one area. And so we've taken that into account. Obviously, the communications are better, and they were really good last year. For example, the parish OEPs, but we actually have had an additional day of preparations this time, partly because the National Weather Service started putting out information 24 hours earlier than they would have, and certainly we didn't sit on that. And so the communication flow, I think, has been better. The amount of the quality of the information that we've been providing to local officials has been better. And certainly, you know, after every severe weather incident, when we have operations here at GOSEP, for example, we do after-action reviews, and we try to incorporate all the lessons learned into our plans for the future, and that is bearing fruit for us today. Yes, ma'am.
Usually when there are storms like this, coastal residents know a lot about what to do, but is there a concern that folks in Shreveport and North Louisiana who are in the path of this aren't prepared enough, or that they need to be more vigilant than they
Well,
are?
there's always that concern. I'm concerned about people all over the state, because while it's a tropical storm, it's not a hurricane. And some people, I think, tend to not take these storms as seriously as they should. That's why I mentioned the fact that we had record rainfall last year. I mean, the probability of the August flood, for example, happening in any given year was put at 1 in 1,000. That was not even a named storm. And so people all over the state of Louisiana, not just along the coast, should take it very seriously, because it has the potential to drop an awful lot of rain all the way through as it moves north. And we've seen areas from Caddo Parish to Ouachita Parish and everywhere in between flooded last year. So we want everyone to take this seriously, not just folks along the coast.
One last question.
I guess not.
I got one.
No. We obviously are leaning forward, and we're making sure that we're ready to open shelters in conjunction with the Red Cross and our local partners at the parish level, and of course at the state. That's headed up by Secretary Marquita Walters, the Department of Children and Family Services, who's standing behind me. So we're ready to do that, but it's not something that we pull the trigger on just yet. Yes, sir.
You mentioned mobile homes, and you had mentioned evacuations. So that same approach apply to mobile homes and MHU about maybe not evacuating just yet?
Well, we're not calling for any evacuations, period. There are no voluntary or mandatory evacuations right now. There may be some forthcoming in the future at the local level, and certainly if that happens, people need to pay attention. But when you have flash flooding, if that's the main threat, quite often you don't call for evacuations, because you don't know that evacuation is necessary until the flooding has materialized in a particular area. And at that point in time, about the worst thing you can do is put people out on the streets, because that's where the greatest danger is. But certainly pay attention to the information coming forth from the state and from local governmental officials, and then comply with those instructions. We will have another meeting here tomorrow morning at 10:30. Please pay attention to any notices that we give you as far as future press conference. Right now, we don't have one scheduled, but I anticipate that we may have one tomorrow after the Unified Committee Group meeting, so it'll be about noon tomorrow. We're going to do that. Thank you all so much.